We have heard and accepted the definition of democracy as the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And while there are many schools of thought about the best form of political structure that suits Nigeria, we have come to accept democracy as the best for Nigeria at the moment. However, with the outcomes of the recent general elections and the resultant plots and scenes, mixed feelings have risen regarding the acceptability of the once okay principle of democracy. More so with the recent court judgments across the country that have been described by some as conflicting. Our guest is a player in the field of politics, considered a veteran and one who should know how best to work the system for the good of all. Newsnight had a sit-down with Alhaji Yabagi Sani, the national chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. He explains the process of democracy within the political parties in Nigeria and why this has been one of the issues that has led to the nullification of several elections. Case in point, Plateau State. Alhaji Sani, thank you for speaking with us on Newsnight. Let's start up from the elections. I mean, the last general election was February, but in the month of November, we also had an off-cycle election, even though we're still expecting another one. So generally speaking, how would you rate the elections in Nigeria? From January till date, or even up till January?
Yeah, well, I think democracy has come to stay. And as a country, we are covering a lot of milestones that are critical to democracy itself. Such milestones are one, elections, formation of governments. So once you can have those two things happening, regardless of how it is happening to a very large extent, you can safely say that democracy is taking root, because that's what it's all about. It's about elections, it's about formation of governments. Because when you have governments, it is then that the citizens can expect to have what you call dividends of democracy. It is when you have elections that you can now say you have democracy, because supposedly it's a system that allows individuals to make a decision for themselves on who governs them. So, but don't lose sight of one thing, which is that in our own situation, we have some underlying conditions, such as ignorance, poverty. Those two things, anywhere they are prevalent, democracy is always struggling to take roots, because democracy presupposes that you are informed. And it also presupposes that you are economically independent to be able to take a decision on your own. So you may be informed, but what about if you are poor? You find that you can easily be influenced, by some economic inducements. So in Nigeria, we have the two, those conditions which are militating against the institutionalization of democracy. But even at that, we have been having successive governments produced through elections. Of course, people will tell you that it's not yet Uhuru, but it's not also undemocratic.
Mr. Sani, you said something about, yes, we've been producing governments, regardless of how. Shouldn't that be considered, the how we produce this government?
Yes, the how is at the root of democracy itself, because it says government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's what democracy is all about. So, but then I've told you that we have underlying conditions that does not suit that assumption or that dictates of democracy. You know, the people are not strong enough by way of being equipped, information-wise and independence-wise. And this is not the fault of anybody, because we have to, and as a government, we have to fight those two things. And if you look at the constitution of Nigeria, it says that government can only lay claim to authority or power over the people if you can deliver welfare and security. And education is one of the very fundamental requirements for people to be able to take a decision on their own. So, issue of education becomes very, very important. And if you look at our scenario in this country, we've been having challenges, especially in the educational sector, to the extent that you find universities, lecturers on strike, for months, as if it doesn't matter. We have challenges of insecurity, which has been going on for a long time. So, you see, democracy in that kind of environment requires the extra sacrifice, if I may use the word, by the people and lovers of democracy. We've had elections, the general elections, the one we had in February 25th, that's the presidential elections. And it wasn't what Nigerians expected. It
wasn't what some Nigerians expect.
Well, some Nigerians, you are right, but all of us together, we were looking forward to something that everybody will accept to a very large extent, as far as the process is concerned, isn't it? But that did not happen. It did not happen because the process itself, unfortunately, failed the regulatory agencies. In this case, INEC. INEC was relying on the technological innovations that are brought into the process in order to reduce cost, time, and frustrations that we normally experience with the manual process. But again, for one reason or the other, that innovation did not deliver what INEC expected.
100 years of the democratic principle operating in Nigeria.
Yes.
So, when do we overcome those primordial issues? How did they even come back into our polity? Because there was a time our best friends were from the far-flung side of the country. But now it has to be, my brother has to be here. How did we let this creep into our political system?
Because you have a system that presupposes that one individual, can run the affairs of the country, and everything depends on the decision, the mindset, how the person feels, and what he wants or what he doesn't want. So that's why some people are challenging, interrogating the continuity of the presidential system of government. But I think it's about it's not the system per se. It's about the people themselves. Some people like to say, "Don't throw the baby with the bathwater." Perhaps, if we try, through trial and error, we'll get it right. Because even America, that we are copying from, yes, they are still battling with the system is not that perfect. They have their own issues.
But Mr. Sani, again, because this is supposed to be something designed for the people and by the people, so the people look amongst themselves and say, okay, we want you, Sani, to go and represent us. You are our leader today. If that person serves with equity, where the dividends of democracy get to everyone without cause for he's on my side, she's on my side, do you think those primordial matters would even show up in any way?
Well, in addition to the primordial matters, we also have the structure of government that we have. The three arms of the government, which are supposed to be harmoniously independent, isn't it? It presupposes that there will be checks and balances with these three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. But what do you find happening today? It's only one arm that controls everything. Yes, the principal officers in the National Assembly at the state levels are handpicked by the executive. That's what is playing out everywhere. The judiciary is appointed by the executive. So, you see, the assumptions that the drafters of the Constitution, are based on that system are not existing. The independence is not there. So even when you now leave the issue of primordial sentiments, you now come to even the system, the structure of the government itself. It's not operating, in line with what the intention of the drafters of the Constitution. So that is why you have so much confusion.
So when you find that, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just one person that's pulled out from amongst the people to say, go and lead. Why can't the people, knowing that this government is for us, say, okay, you know what you're doing there we don't like. Come, let's look at this together. Now, some will say that that's what happens during the elections.
Yeah.
But the processes in our country haven't been what they ought to be. They haven't been as straightforward as they should. Again, like you say, it's based on those matters.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. That the system is not designed, in a manner that what you just said can happen. It's not designed. Yes, we are operating democracy, which says government of the people, by the people, for the people. But the system of government that we have, does not
support that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't operate like that. It's not, because what is happening is that even the elections themselves, are not conducted, in the manner that is conceived by the drafters of the Constitution. Because a situation where you have the umpire, the regulatory agency itself, being appointed by one of the participants in the elections, how can you expect a free, fair, credible election in that scenario? If the president, who appoints all the INEC staff, from the chairman of INEC to national officers to the state electoral officers, are expressly appointed by Mr. President, who is contesting the election, or whose party is contesting the election.
With the confirmation of the Senate, remember that.
Yeah, but confirmation comes after the man has picked the person he wants. And if you send him back 1 million times, he will send back still the person that he wants. It's not the person that the Senate wants, per se. What the Senate is looking at is perhaps the constitutional requirement. The person sent to them, does he meet the constitutional requirements, what is said in the Constitution? But what we are talking about goes beyond that. So that's why you will find that all the commissions of inquiry or something like that, this Waste Committee, Kendamani Committee, and other committees that have looked into the process have come up with a suggestion that, hey, we cannot continue like this, because if you have the umpire, subservient to one of the participants in the election, what do you expect? They are human beings, So you can't even blame them because they are human beings.
When you say subservient here, the laws also ensure that they have some level of, not independence. They have independence. They get their money first line charge. They don't need to wait for the executive to give them their monies to operate.
It's not just about the money, like
So you're saying that the appointment is also a weight on the umpire himself?
Yes, it is. It is. So it's not just the money that they get. The fact of the matter is that they are still accountable, because this person that is participating in this election can remove you, even if the National Assembly will come and say, no, we have to approve it. But for that time, you are not on the seat, isn't it? And you need to maybe promotion or something, some things like that, in your employment, as the case is. So unless we change that scenario, that situation, elections may not be, what Nigerians are expected to be.
What then would you say should be the best way to go? Because right now it looks as if we have the people's choice versus the executive or judiciary's choice. So what do we do to get back to what we're supposed to have? A proper electioneering process that will birth the leaders the people have chosen.
Well, it's I'm not saying it's not impossible, really, because it's about social, reorientation, isn't it? And that takes time. It's not mechanical. It's not like I want to move this phone, I just take it from here, I put it here. No, human thinking, human mind, it takes time for you to reorient it then, to think in the right way, the proper way. So until we are able to deal with the situation of how do we appoint people that preside over the affairs of the elections, that's very critical. That's crucial, and no matter how you look at it, because these are human beings, and look at, in fact, at the tier of the local government is even worse, a situation where they come out and say everybody that won is from one party, so you can now for yourself see the mockery that they have done of democracy. So the point I'm making is that it's a fundamental issue that we must, as a people, confront. National Assembly has a lot to do in that respect, so that we can begin to have elections that we can say is credible, free, and fair.
It looks like you're trying to exonerate the judiciary from all of this. But let's see this. So the legislature has given them the laws by which to work, so to speak. They have the Constitution, they have the Electoral Act, they have INEC's guidelines. But we do know that from some of the judgments that have been given, the INEC guidelines has been like, leave that one aside. It does not tally with the law, what the law says, the laws of the land. But the law also gives INEC, the law says INEC has the discretion to decide. Yes. So if the law says INEC has the discretion to decide on its own what to do,
yes,
shouldn't that be binding on INEC when they flout that themselves?
No. INEC is supposed to administer the act, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But you administer the act within the provisions of the act. You can't go out of the provision of the act. Okay. Whatever you are doing as INEC, it has to be within the provisions of the act. You can't bring something in that is not in that act already. All you need to do was to administer it, bring out, regulations and laws and what have you.
So now that what you're saying about the legislature setting up this thing to fail,
exactly,
it becomes clearer now.
Exactly.
So they should have been specific about INEC. This is what you need to do.
Yeah, you need to do. So INEC has no right to do something outside the law.
But let's again look back to the judiciary now.
Yes.
That said, the matter of pre-election matters, issues, for instance.
Yes.
That matter has come up over and over and over again in different cases, yes, that are before the tribunal and before the appeal court. And for some states, they tell you pre-election matter, we're not going to adjudicate on that. They come up to another state, for instance, Plateau. In the case of Plateau, they come to that one and they adjudicate on it, which is supposed to be a pre-election matter. The question of not properly nominated, not qualified because he or she is not properly nominated by a party, because a party, according to the judgment, did not have their convention as they should, even though the party claims that they did. Now, that matter, how does that play out at the end of the day if the same matter of a pre-election matter works for one and for the other one it does not work? Is it still the legislature that is to blame for that as well?
To a very large extent, yes, because you see, judiciary, and especially if you're talking about the Supreme Court can vary their decisions. That yes, last year we decided this way, but what we are looking at today, because they are policy, courts. So for policy matter and for the peace that should be supreme in our considerations, we think we should go this way. That's why they are Supreme Court. They are not in any way, constrained by saying, oh, the Supreme Court, the verdict was this. Okay, lower courts can now cite the Supreme Court decisions and then do something in line. But the Supreme Court itself can vary. Can say, okay, last year we decided this way, but this year, for reasons best known to us and why we think it should be done, we are deciding this way.
But in this case, in the case of Plateau State, for instance, where the Supreme Court had ruled on the presidential elections using a qualification matter, which they say is pre-election, and that is now used to decide the situation, the appeals in Jos, legislature and the governorship. How does that tally? How is the appellate court now appearing not to quote the Supreme Court judgment as it is?
No, but you have also said that there are some preconditions, isn't it, that they were supposed to meet, which they didn't meet, which is also like conducting primaries.
But they did conduct primaries. What they said they didn't conduct their Congress.
Their Congress, exactly.
Congress, yes.
Exactly, the Congress. I was going to say the Congress, So if you didn't have people that were validly elected by the party, themselves, to carry out that important function on behalf of the party, then it's faulty from the beginning. So you cannot. So it's like you are comparing oranges and apples. In this case, because they are not the same, really. It's not the case that the APC did not, conduct their congresses or something like that, which is what you compare with the Plateau, issue. So this is what there are some basic differences that the judges, of course, will have to look at and say, well, if you didn't do what you are supposed to do, then you cannot claim that you have validly nominated this person, and if he wasn't validly nominated from the first in the first instance, then.
But what if the electoral umpire looks at all of that and says, no, we're okay with what they've done, they can go ahead? I mean, all those candidates were signed up on by the electoral umpire.
No, the electoral umpire, like works on whatever the parties bring to them. Okay. It used to be before that the election umpire can say no, can carry out their own investigation and say this one does not qualify, so we're not going with that. But we've taken that away from the election umpire. It's now with the parties. So, but if the parties themselves did not do what they're supposed to do, then that's why you put yourself in this mess.
What's the role of the Inter-Party Advisory Council as regards maintaining internal party democracy so that it does not affect the electoral process in itself?
Well, what we are doing is that we are having workshops, to bring ourselves to speed as far as the Electoral Act is concerned. We are taking stock of what has been happening in terms of the judgments that have been issued by the Judiciary, and see how do we, and then we are also preparing to submit what we believe should be the amendments to Electoral Act 2022, so that we will reduce this crisis, this induced crisis, in the system itself. So those are the things we are doing. Also, we are trying to see how we can make democracy to appeal to Nigerians, because like we have introduced what we call peer review mechanism. Why do we do that, especially for the governors? It's because all the mechanisms that Constitution introduced to checkmate the governors, to make them work for the people, have failed. For instance, it was the intention of the Constitution that the state House of Assemblies will supervise, the state governor and, control him to a very large extent, isn't it? But that doesn't happen. The assembly is in the pocket of the governors. At the national level, the same thing. So what we have done is to introduce peer review mechanism where we now we go out, look at what you have done, what Governor A has done, what B has done, and then come out and then honor them, celebrate those who have done something, for their people, give them awards, so that now there will be competition that, they will compete amongst themselves, and in the process, they will deliver that dividends democracy for the people. That's what we have introduced, which we've been implementing to a very large extent. And it's working, because some governors are saying, oh, please come and look at what we have done, so that my people will see that I have done something for them, and then I will also be celebrated. Number two, we have also, we are celebrating this centenary. We want to tell Nigerians that Nigeria has come of age. 100 years is not 100 days. It means that we can hold a candle to any country when it comes to democracy. That we're supposed to be masters of this game now, and we are. As a country, really. It's just that you still have these militating, factors, of poverty, ignorance, that is fighting us. And when you put that, alongside these primordial sentiments, alongside the way the institutions, are put in place in this country, institutions like who appoints the electoral body, who appoints the police, who appoints the judges, who does this, if it's just one person. So all these things must be streamlined. We have to interrogate them. We have to see how we bring them into the equation should be balanced, so that you will have free, fair, and credible elections.
You are talking about the things that IPAC, the Party Advisory Council, has introduced into the Nigerian polity to see that the leaders are serving the people as they should, or to ensure the parties hold their ambassadors responsible. How effective do you think that will be? I mean, so far, it appears though those who have won elections going there, they are making the money, because, I mean, our system is such that everything's provided for whoever wins elections. So he's making the money, and he's settling the party. Do you think the party would want to hold him responsible to say, guy, this matter, don't go there, don't go here, this is what we said we're going to do? Wouldn't that cause him to stop and maybe decamp to another party? Are you not concerned about that?
No, because, the issue of dividend democracy is at the bottom of good governance, isn't it? And as a politician, as an individual, he wants to be loved by his people, no matter what. Nobody likes to be, despised, or, in a manner that, people are not happy with you. So we are trying to help. This is a human thing. It's not especially politicians. He wants to be loved by the people, more than the diversion of resources and things like what you are talking about. So we want to provide them the opportunity to do just that. And you also know that peer review mechanism is not peculiar to Nigeria. It's something that is used worldwide, in order to introduce competition, so that people will perform, beyond what ordinarily, they will do. So that's why it works everywhere. So that's why we are bringing it here, so that it will also work for us. So, and in addition to that, we are also introducing what we call election results management system, which is like a portal, just like what INEC has, so that we will not be relying only on our agents, that in most cases they are always compromised. They are ill-trained. You send your agent to go and represent you, somebody offers him something, maybe double what you have given to him, and then he forgets about you. some will not even bring back the results to the party or to the candidate. So we want to now go digital. We want to, just like what INEC has done. And it doesn't cost that much.
So how would you be able to get those results, seeing that would you be banking on INEC to feed your portal, or you're going to deploy digital equipment in the polling units,
yes,
which is contrary to the law?
No.
How would you do that?
No. As you have observers, isn't it, that
yes,
come to observe what INEC is doing. They ask questions. And our agents, as political parties, we are entitled by law to have the results, they stamped, signed, and approved, by everybody there, as the results of the election that happened at a particular polling unit. So that is the result, which is also pasted, there. So it's in the public domain. Okay, so we will take it and feed it into our system, and then we have an incontrovertible evidence, that you don't necessarily have to go to INEC and then say pay millions of naira, and even after you are paid, the man may not give you what you want. Yeah. So we will have this information, and then we will not have it in scattered form, because what is happening today is that because you don't have it, instantly, and then when you have it in some not so organized form. So we're trying to organize ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we are trying to help INEC, because INEC at the highest, they're not happy with what is happening too. They want parties to step up, so that we can also be a contributory. We can contribute to credible, free, fair elections. INEC is not happy with what some agents of the parties are doing at all, because it impacts negatively on their performance, as an agency. So if they have particular parties organized and they have information too, then it makes their job very easy.
Mr. Sani, let me ask you this.
Yes.
You have children, right?
Yes.
And maybe when they were growing up, if any one of them did something you're not happy with, you disciplined them.
Yes.
Or in this case, you prosecuted them.
Yes.
You were the judge and jury at
yes.
home. But why is INEC not prosecuting those who have been seen to have flouted the Electoral Acts or the electoral process?
They do.
No. When I say they have not been seen to be doing that, I mean, the elections are over. February.
No, INEC announced, was it some few weeks ago, that they are going to deal with those electoral offenders.
Okay.
They are coming out with. They have assembled a lot of.
I know that they do brief you as to what they are doing. So.
Yes, but they say it even to the public. Was it that a week or so ago? Okay. That they are going to prosecute. They are going to come out. With the.
But why? The question. Why I'm asking the question is why the delay? The elections happened in February, so why the delay in prosecuting those who might have flouted the law in February?
No, but the ones that they needed to deal with immediately, I think they have dealt with those ones. Some you may not know. They may not come out to tell that we have sacked this one or we have done this.
Is it enough to sack? Is it enough to sack
but
those?
Some are taken to court, like the Adamawa case.
Yes, that one had to go because it was a clear public event.
But from my knowledge of what INEC is doing, believe you me, they don't take kindly to any of their staff that violated some of these rules. They don't.
So I'm asking, is it enough to just sack them? How about prosecuting them?
Well, prosecuting them, maybe when they come out to start their prosecuting, like they say they're going to do, perhaps they will bring those ones out. And you will see that, yes, INEC is up and doing in terms of ensuring that the processes are something that people do not take for granted.
Okay, let me just read something here. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo criticized the recent Court of Appeal judgment, labeling them cathedral pronouncements and expressing concern over a few judges overturning decisions made by millions of voters in the 2023 elections. He emphasized the unacceptability of such concentrated power, urging a re-evaluation of the democratic process to prevent irreversible decisions by a small judicial group. That was the former president. Now, based on this, what I've just read out that the former president was quoted as saying, what sort of reforms should we be looking at? Yes, you said your organization is considering coming together to work out some reform that they will bring to the National Assembly say these are the things that should be done. But let's see. Let's just inform our viewers and the nation as a whole what areas of reform that the Interparty Advisory Council will be pursuing.
No, the most important one that you must know about is the fact that we want winners to be free of all encumbrances, cases, before they are sworn into the office, before they even assume the office. Because once somebody has assumed the office, especially at the national level, he becomes almost untouchable. So, but if all cases are dispensed of, and the person now is, clean, so to speak, okay, fine. So that we have to deal with, and there's nothing wrong in doing that. It can be done, So, number two, we would like a situation where this issue of transmission of results from the polling industry to INEC is clear. It's not a choice that INEC can choose to do it or not do it. So that has to be done, in a manner that would allow Nigerians to now expect free, fair, and credible elections. So that the huge sums of money we spent in those innovations, we will have something to show for it. So number three, we look at even the processes of filing, names of candidates with INEC. We believe that time should be given, more time should be given for you to have credible people that will participate in the elections, than to give time for even campaigning. I think it's important that you give enough time to parties to be able to, because
is the time not enough?
No, it's not enough really. From the experience we had, the last experience, time was not enough. That's why you had parties going, to court with INEC that they are not allowed to file the candidates, things like that. So we believe that democracy should allow people to participate. People should not be, their rights should not be abridged by any act or any law or something like that. Democracy is about freedom, number one. That's what.
Okay. What about independent candidates? Don't you think that would also bring a change to our political processes?
I don't know where it has worked, really. But it's just, yes, because I know there are supposed to be independent candidates in Liberia. I went to Liberia. I saw what happened. Still, it is the parties that won. In America, it's supposed to have independent candidates. It has never really materialized in a manner that you say, but for the sake of allowing people to have freedom to do what they want to do, because that's democracy, perhaps you can. But I don't think it's anything that will change the scenario we are in. If you are looking for something that will bring credibility, to the process, independent candidacy cannot, do anything in that direction.
You said something earlier about the fact that we're all able to use our phones wherever we go,
yes.
Use our WhatsApp and all that. One would be wondering, why then wouldn't you be pushing for electronic voting? Wouldn't that be a reform you could be considering putting out there to the National Assembly? Seeing that wherever we are, you pick up your device now, you do what you need to do. You transfer money to your children,
yes.
They send money to you, or they send things to you, and you see it instantly. Can't we consider that?
Yeah, we should consider that. But again, don't forget that, like I said before, 70% of the electorate, are not the kind of, they don't have that kind of technology, ability, to. I'm talking about people in the rural areas,
But they have their phones. We speak with them. You speak with them.
I know.
They send text messages.
Yes, they do.
And some of those text messages have to do with money.
Yes.
So
yes.
We know.
Yes.
We love our
I know.
money.
I know.
So.
I know. But again, aside from that, you are also wary of issues of hacking. Because I'm not saying that we shouldn't go that way, because that's a trend in any case. That's a trend all over the world. The world is going, not even, we're going AI.
Some people still argue that even America hasn't gone electronic in voting. Yes. Why should we be in a hurry to do that?
Yes. Well, that's all. That the United States or something like that.
The U.S. hasn't even gone electronic voting. Why should Nigeria want to do that?
No, well, my own problem with that is the ability of the average voter and the majority, those that you think they're useful, they send text messages. I don't know how many of them send text messages really. If you look at the educational level and then the exposure of some of our people, that's my reason. And hacking too, people can easily hack into these electronic things that we are talking about. So that's why what I will rather recommend is that INEC can keep, if they want, the manual process at collation, but let the collation done by the technology be the first port of call. It's when there is dispute that you can now say, okay, let's see what you did, manually, because that, to a very large extent, is more reliable than the hand one, the manual one, because it's like the saying that it's not those who cast the votes, that determine the winner, but those who count the votes. So, and in our own case, it's mostly the case, because when they add polling units results, and they give you a different result from what you are supposed to have, you have a problem there.
And which is what the former president was talking about, putting so much power on a small group of people in the judiciary here.
Yeah.
So what do we do with that that we can free the judiciary? Because right now there are so many. You talked about the winners being unencumbered. So that means every case will be resolved before inauguration.
Yes.
But our courts are already saturated with cases. Because minor civil cases get up to Supreme Court.
No, by the time we revisit the Electoral Act itself, that I'm talking about the electoral framework now, on the elections, all those ambiguities, by the time you remove them, you make it a clear-cut thing that anybody can really say, yes, this is what you mean. You don't say, I'm going to do this, and then the day of the election, I see something different. You say, no, you didn't know, but I have this one is supposed to be there too. So let it be. Once the law is made to be very clear to everybody, you understand the law, and then there will be no these kind of cases that you find now. Because even the lawyers themselves are trying to grapple with what does this provision, what does it say? They think it's this, but it's not. That what they think, it is. So, but like I said, the National Assembly, can, if they don't understand, they can hire, because they have enough money to hire lawyers or people that can study the situation for them and give them something that everybody will understand. If they think they don't have the knowledge or the time, you can consult. They can employ consultants to do it for them, so that we have very, very clear laws that anybody can predict, that we can predict what is going to happen. But in this case, it's people are surprised that what happens. They never expected that that's what the law says. It shouldn't be so. So that's why you have cases, so many cases. It means it's like if you set up an exam and almost 90% of your children, your pupil, everybody failed. That exam is not right. Something is wrong with the exam itself, not the pupil. So, which means something is wrong with the ground norm. I mean, I'm talking about the Electoral Act now that we have. That is why we must revisit it. So it will be something that everybody can easily pass. It's not a situation where it is up to the whims, the caprices of somebody sitting somewhere and looking up the sky and say, okay, yes, this is what I think I should do. No, it shouldn't be I think. It should be this is what I should do because the law says this. So this is what I think we must do as a people, to put a lot of pressure on the National Assembly to step up to the plate, make laws that are very clear, very simple, and can be predicted that this is what the law would produce. Not an ambiguous laws that everybody can just take advantage of.
Finally, before we let you go, Sani, what message would you give to the electorate who have felt hard done by the electoral body, by the politicians, by you and your colleagues, hard done by society generally, and a lot of them are like, you know what, enough of this. 2023 election had a lot of momentum. Indeed, someone said this is the first time we had 3 candidates. In fact, we had candidates spread across the country.
That's right.
North, south, east, and west. We had candidates represented at the highest level and at all levels. but a lot of these electors will be feeling hard done. So what message would you be giving them right now?
No, I think really what I would tell them is that democracy is a journey. It's not a destination. And I think where we are today may not be where we want to be, but we are not where we were before. Because look at the National Assembly. You have more parties now, representing the National Assembly than we ever had, isn't it? You have governors losing elections in their in the senatorial district. A governor that governs the entire state cannot win an election within his senatorial district. So that means we are making some progress, isn't it? So what I would advise electors to do is to be patient and interrogate the system, hold power to account, and don't lose faith in the democracy. Democracy everywhere in the world is the best form of the government, regardless of the problems we are battling with, because freedom is very essential, is very important, is the number one thing that if you lose, you have lost everything. So that's why I believe Nigeria is making progress as far as democracy is concerned. I'm not saying we are where we want to be. I'm not saying that things are working the way they should be. But what has it done? It has given opportunity to look at where we have gone wrong. What can we do better? How can we do it better? We now have that opportunity. Remember, when the whole thing was about to be truncated, when we were doing the collation, if democracy at that point in time was truncated, where are we going to go? You will be talking about something different, not democracy anymore. Maybe interim government that will go into become a military government, and who knows how long that will last before you come back again to democracy. So this is why I think it's not Uhuru yet, but we are very near, the ideal situation that Nigerians, would be happy with what we are having.
In terms of cost of governance,
yes.
Would you also be putting the National Assembly to make laws that will ensure a reduction in cost of governance? Because it's astronomical.
It is astronomical. I agree with you. And I think that is one thing that all of us are worried about, including people in government. And I think it behoves on Mr. President, in particular, to see what he can do to ensure that Nigerians are served in a manner that will give Nigerians the impression that these people are there for us. They're not just there for themselves, because that's what it shows now, that people in government are there for themselves. They have little or no sympathy for the people of this country. If you look at the level of poverty we have, But again, we are lucky to have somebody today as the president who is a Democrat, who has lived all his life as a Democrat, who I believe, will deliver good governance, for us. I believe that because that's what he knows, best. And I believe Nigerians at the end of the day will be happy that this democracy is delivering. Well, it's not delivering as much as we want yet, but I assure you that give us another 4 years. By the time Bola Tinubu finishes, believe me, it's going to be a different ball game,
We appreciate your participation in today's program. Your insights are important to us, and we encourage you to connect with us on social media using the handles shown on your screen. Also, you can send us a mail. Furthermore, you can access the episode and the past discussions through our podcast. That's on our website, channelstv.com/podcast. I'm Neo Taigbe. Bye-bye.